All right, we will. Nice pick, Mike. That's awesome. All right, so we will get into this. We're gonna have Melissa. We have all kinds of questions for you. We're gonna kind of be all over the place.
That's fair.
That's just it's just kind of how we do it.
That's fair.
But it'll be a
Like,
lot of fun.
yeah, it's gonna be super fun.
We'll pick your brain about all the things because you've done a ton of stuff in the video game industry. Like most people we talk to are like single focused. Hey, I animate things, but you seems like you've done everything.
Yeah, I'm kind of a crazy person. The only thing I haven't really done is I've never been QA and I've never done engineering. So outside of that, I've done a little bit of everything. I spent like about 10 years in indie games before I came to BioWare. So and now at BioWare, this is my first opportunity that I've actually had to focus at all. So like when I started at BioWare, they were kind of like, what do you want to do? And they hired me as like a generalized game designer. And then I was kind of like, hey, like I really like making these bad guys. So they put me on the creature design team, and I've been there for 3 years now almost. My third anniversary of BioWare is actually next week. So
exciting.
yeah, it's super exciting. So yeah, I can kind of speak to any field that you're interested in.
Perfect. Yep. I'm gonna play our intro and then we will dive in, and then I even have a fun little quiz that we'll do. But all right, here we go. I'm gonna couple seconds of silence so I can edit out some noise, and then we will get started.
Right on.
Welcome to the weekly episode of the Freelancer Codex podcast. Your host, Steven, and co-hosts Mike, Devon, and JD are all set. Join us and tweet your questions at Freelancer Codex. Find us on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or send emails to freelancercodex@gmail.com. Strap into your javelins and let's drop in.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 121 of the Freelancer Codex podcast, the longest running Anthem podcast on the internet and in the universe and in the known galaxy. I'm your host, Steve, along with two co-hosts, Devon and Mike, and special guest, Melissa of BioWare. Melissa, I guess I should have asked before we started. It's Janowicz, right?
It is Janowicz. Yeah, my go-to meeting put me down as Davidson for some reason. I think it auto-scrubbed from somewhere, and then I didn't bother to change it. I guess I won't worry about it for now. I won't worry about it.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure I said it right because it's like I know it was Davidson before. You recently got married and then changed to Janowicz, so I just wanted to make sure I got that right because I'm terrible with names. I forget names.
It's all good. So am I, to be honest. And it is kind of a weird name to pronounce. It was funny because when I was in Japan, they constantly did that. They could see them, they'd look at my name, and then they'd be like, Melissa, and then long pause because they didn't know how to pronounce it. I kind of felt
like, we'll just call you Melissa. How about that? So Melissa is here and has accepted the chance to come on and talk with us. Melissa, you've been a developer at BioWare for the last 3 years now.
That's right.
Anniversary coming up next week, I hear. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
And you were responsible for some of the enemies in that we fought in Anthem.
Yes, that's right. So I worked with a really great team on a whole bunch of creatures for Anthem, all the way up till ship, and then I moved back onto the Dragon Age team, which is what I was
the top secret Dragon Age team.
Right? I can't. If it wasn't in the trailer we put out with the Video Game Awards like a couple years ago, I can't talk about it.
Don't
you
worry, we will not.
Like even rumors about what the trailer is, I can't really answer it. Like I literally can't say anything. So.
That is perfect. You will get no Dragon Age questions from the three of us. I guarantee that. That is the game that we still need to go back and we need to backfill that into our game log. So, Melissa, thanks for coming on. Again, you've been with BioWare for 3 years. You've been a game designer for many years before that. You've worked in UX, UI, art direction, concept art, business strategy. Other titles you've worked on are the Four Kings Casino, Club Penguin, which is something that I think is super interesting. Like an MMO that came out in 2004.
Yeah, it's kind of that was actually an incredible experience because like it by the time I worked there it was bought by Disney, right? And at the time I was like living in Ontario and they were literally like, do you want to come down for like 6 months to Kelowna and just like figure it out? And I was like, hell yeah, man. And it ended up becoming like a year. And my role there was interactive background designers, which was kind of like their fancy name for like mixed art and design. So I would draw backgrounds and like do the animations for objects, and then I would also design features with a team. So like for example, like the monthly parties. So let's say for example they're like, oh, we want to bring back Medieval Party for another year, and I was like, yeah, it sounds cool. And we get together with the team and kind of talk about how that could work and cool new stuff we could build. And then we'd work with our manager who was like the art director to kind of divvy up that work. And then we did like staged approvals and all that stuff that normally happens on an arts team. And like we would pump out a party in 3 weeks. Like they had really quick pipeline on that team, and I learned a lot. It was a really nice experience.
And that's really cool because I followed you on Twitter for a long time since Anthem was announced. Like I found all the devs that are working on it, found you there, started talking to you. And I didn't realize that you did background art, because a lot of the stuff that you show on Twitter, you do normal, your digital art, but I didn't know you did background until I got onto your website, saw everything that you did. And I was like, really, Club Penguin? This is something that I've heard about for a long time. Like people love to talk about Club Penguin because, you know, a lot of people probably grew up playing Club Penguin in high school because it was browser based.
Yeah, it's crazy, the longevity of that game. Like there's been times like I have a Club Penguin blade, like a little like a little hoodie that I still have from the old days. And like there are times where I'll like go to the mall or something and somebody will just be like, hey, where did you get that? And I was like, oh, I worked on that. And they lose their mind. Like, and I'm like, wow, this was like something that I worked on like 7 or 8 years ago, and people are still like super excited. Like I'm very, very, very flattered and beyond humbled that people care so much about Club Penguin and that I got to be a part of it. And I know so many amazing people that like appreciate it as well that worked on that project. So yeah, shout out to those fans. Thank you all so much.
That's pretty awesome.
And I'm still impressed because there's still fan servers that because I think Disney is no longer running Club Penguin, but there's still fan servers out there that people are still playing the game. So
yeah,
I think that's a testament to great design that people still, after, you know, a company closes something down, they're like, no, we're going to keep playing this game because we love it. And that's awesome.
Yeah. I feel the same. I feel the same way. And it's crazy because like that stuff's not legal, obviously, right? And I like, you know, there was one there, like I volunteer at like kids summer camps in the summer, and like I got questioned about the private servers, and I just kind of blurted out like that's illegal, and shocked like a room full of 8-year-old children.
Oh no. We don't want to go to jail. We just want our penguins.
Yeah.
So very cool. So real quick, we would also like to thank our patrons that have been supporting us now, especially more than ever in this time of, you know, uncertainty. A lot of people are losing their jobs. We really wanted to thank our patrons. So thanks, Julius, Nathan B, Michael R, Trent B, Mana and Still, Scout 69, Tony K, Volkai, and Jerry Hollingsworth. Thank you so much for continuing to support the podcast. It means a ton to us. Without you all, this would be a lot harder and a lot less enjoyable to do, because knowing that we have support from a lot of people makes all the difference. So thank you to all our patrons. We really appreciate it. So before we jump on, I kind of want and get to ask it, because I got a lot of questions for you, Melissa. I mean, you've done everything in the game industry. You're doing your own little side thing to help support other game devs. Before doing that, I kind of want to know what you're playing currently, because I think more than most people that I have talked to on Twitter, you play a lot of games.
Oh yeah, like, well, especially like with the unfortunateness that's going on right now, like there's kind of nothing better to do, right, than to buy a few games and just try them out. So I put like 100 hours in the Animal Crossing since the we went to work from home status like about almost 6 weeks ago now. Wow, time flies. But yeah, so since then it's kind of like, well, you know, Animal Crossing. I cleared Final Fantasy VII remaster, and like, what else? There's an RPG. There's a few RPGs on Switch that I've been like trying. I revisited Final Fantasy VIII recently, which has been pretty fun. And there's another one, but I forget what it's called. And I feel bad because it actually was pretty good. Yeah, it's like a steampunk theme one that's like super 2D pixel art, and you like all your weapons and armor like augment you, and then you get powers from it. Hold on, actually, I'm just gonna boot my Switch and I'll literally tell you what it was.
No problem. I can't think of which one that would be.
Cosmic Star Heroine. That's what it was. So I did enjoy that. I put like 60 hours into Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX as well.
Wow.
Wow. See, so, like, it blows my mind how much gameplay, because Final Fantasy Remaster just recently came out and you've already cleared that. That's 40 plus hours. And I'm guessing you probably did all the side stuff, because that would have been something that you skipped.
I kind of felt like I played through it once, right? And then like at the end they're like, oh, you can play on hard mode. You can like get all the dresses for all the characters in this one part and like do all this stuff. And I looked at it and I was kind of like, oh, you know, this is kind of like busy, like a little bit busy work. I was like, I can be playing other games. I tend to play, most of the time I play a game long enough to like really understand all the gameplay, and then I kind of move on to something else. But like, yeah, with Final Fantasy 7, I was very invested in the story. So I just really wanted to know what they were gonna do with all the story beats and where they were gonna like leave off and stuff, and how they were gonna make certain creative decisions at a higher fidelity. So once I kind of figured all that out, I was like, all right, time to move on to the next one. I did really love it though. It was a fantastic game.
So how was it going from 7 remake and how beautiful that game looks to back to playing Final Fantasy 8? Because that's kind of like, I mean, you got to kind of switch your brain off and be like, oh, because for me, like I went back and started playing Final Fantasy 15 and I'm playing Final Fantasy 6, but it's kind of like, man, this game, Final Fantasy 6 could look like Final Fantasy 7 remake someday, right?
It could,
But-
and I would love that. I would buy that. Square needs to get on that. Like that I love Final Fantasy 6, and I love 4. Like I love all the old Final Fantasies. Like I really enjoyed when they did 3 and 4 remastered on DS. Do you remember that? Like
Yeah.
I loved 4 when I was like a really little kid, and when it came out on DS, I totally bought that and I cleared that too. And I like the aesthetic is like super simple, but still like a huge upgrade over what existed before, and like it was fun. I enjoyed it. With 8, I'm willing to forgive is kind of the main thing. Like I know it's a really old game. I love there's a meme that used to go around of like when the main character, like the main female character is talking to the main male character, and she's just like, "You're the most handsome guy here," and it's just like 3 polygons. It's like a close up of his face. It's just like one triangle, and that's it. Like I remember being like 15 or something, and like turning on Final Fantasy 8, and then turning it on just to watch the opening cutscene, and then I would literally be like, "That's the most amazing art I've ever seen," and then I would just turn it on.
Like it can't get better than this, right? Seeing watching Squall, and I forget the other his nemesis in the beginning, what his name was.
Oh my god, why can't I'm so bad with names. Because I actually just started revisiting that, and I forget the guy's name now too. I
just called him the he had the 9mm gun blade, so that's how I remember him. But it's like it's awesome to see that Square is actually putting in, because like I'll be honest, I was not a believer that they'd be able to pull off remaking Final Fantasy 7, one of the most beloved games ever. But by all accounts, they just kind of knocked it out of the park, and everyone's excited to see what's going to happen. The only question I have is are they ever going to release everything? Because it took them this long to get the first part out. That's a lot of game that they still have left to go.
Yeah, I'm optimistic though. Like, they shipped Hearts 3. They shipped a lot of projects like really recently that like were in the works for a long time. And like now that they finished the first Final Fantasy 7 game, like they'll have the pipelines that they need to finish the other 2. So for those reasons, I feel really, really optimistic that they're gonna they'll actually finish it. A lot of people keep joking like, oh, it'll take another 5 years. I don't know. Maybe it'll be sooner.
As long as we can add in that ray tracing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because hopefully, I mean, it's got to come next gen, right? I can't imagine they put it back. They put it on the PlayStation 4 for. So real quick, Devon, we'll ask you what you've been playing, and then before we jump into asking way more questions of Melissa. So Devon, what are you playing?
What am I playing? I am playing Alien Isolation to torture myself for the stream. So because I stream that, and they can watch and laugh at me as I scream.
I appreciate you taking the bullet on that one.
I don't like scary games. But so I've been playing that. I've taken a break for about 5 days, gonna get over the last session. But mostly I've been playing. Yeah, I know.
Just
get it done. I've been playing a lot of Sea of Thieves. I got some new content coming out. I love playing that with my friends, and it's just a good time. And before that, I was playing Call of Duty, but I really like to play Sea of Thieves. They bring out new content almost monthly, and it's crazy just, how much you can do in a game where you just sail around and do stuff.
You just get to make your own story. That's the main catch, right?
Exactly. We make our own story every time.
Very cool. Mike, what have you been up to?
Oh man, I have been up to fighting allergies, and I have been up to Luke and I, my son, we play Forza together. We just got the Legos Speed Edition, so we're playing that. We got that little bonus pack. We're playing that. We play a lot of Forza. We're in a Minecraft kind of mood, so we do Minecraft every day, and it's fun. Pretty simple games. Home with all the kiddos. It kind of
they kind of eat into your gaming time, and you usually end up playing what they want to play because that's how harmony is kept in the home. So, but it's fun. It's fun. I like racing games. I like Forza and Minecraft. It blows me away how well they navigate through everything in Minecraft, and just their button movements and just selecting all the things and customizing all the homes and how everything is all set up. It just blows me away how adept they are to video games already, because I was not when I was their age. So it's fun to watch them go through it.
But I, like you said, I'm surprised at how fast they are at building things in Minecraft. When it takes me like you have to do what? How many blocks? And they just build, and they're super fast at it. So
they're super fast, and Kai's like, wow, I built a fifth story without even knowing it. And I'm like, how do you not know that you're building a fifth story? But yeah, it's fun watching them. I think one of the best parts as a parent is that they are cooperating when they're playing together, and they aren't fighting back and forth. So it's definitely a great bonus when your kiddos can get along while they play video games. So
I agree. So the only thing that I've been playing Final Fantasy 15 for the first time. I saw, because you can play it through Game Pass right now, and everyone's playing Final Fantasy 7, and I don't have a PlayStation 4 yet. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll just go play Final Fantasy 15 since I've never played it. That has to be like one of the most different Final Fantasy entries in the series so far. That it's kind of, Melissa, I don't know if you played Final Fantasy 15 and completed it, and what your thoughts on that game were.
Yeah, it's on my list. Like, there's a lot of people at work who've been encouraging me to try it. I have not played it yet. I heard it's pretty good. I do hear it kind of falls apart in the second half, and there's a lot of unused content. Sounds interesting.
It is very weird. I'll be interested when you get to it, because you play games like a crazy person. Like, I don't know how you get through so many games, but when you do get through it, I'd love to talk with you about it. So, and I've been doing my yearly replay of Final Fantasy 6 because I can't get enough of that game. So, playing the original, I'm actually doing it through emulation illegally, but I own the cart, so it's not illegal, right? If I own the actual physical thing, I can get the ROM. I think that's how that works. So Melissa, real quick,
whatever you say.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I'm going to justify my actions anyway, right? That's how I will sleep better tonight. Melissa, what drew you to video games in the first place?
You know what? It's crazy. Like, I was like, when I was like 13, I just really wanted to do it. Like, I don't know. I just decided one day that I was going to do it. And I think a big part of it actually had to do with just like, I saw how it was like bringing people together. Like, this was during like the Pokemon era. So like, just seeing like all the people, like everybody like becoming like being friends and like having fun. And like, I was already a gamer back then, and I mostly played RPGs back then, like turn-based RPGs. So I was playing a lot of like Super Mario RPG or like Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, like those kinds of games. And like, I don't know, I just kind of realized like, I love it. I got to do it. And like, my parents were just like, yeah, that's cool. We'll see what happens. And I grew like, and I just went, I don't know. I just never changed my mind. That was pretty much it. And then like throughout high school, I was always like, should I be an engineer or should I be like an artist, right? So that was like more of the turmoil in my head. Like, I never like strayed from the path of wanting to make video games, but I was always kind of like, what part of video games do I actually want to do? And then I ended up going to animation school, for better or for worse. If I could have done it again, I probably would have gone to engineering school, but you know, hindsight's 2020, you know, so.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I guess when you started, like, how did you get into the industry? Was it just, okay, did you like start writing? Did you start designing your own games yourself before you got in? Like, what was your pathway to where you are now? So
I went to animation school, and then I went to graduate school. So I got a full ride there. And then like when I graduated, that was the month the recession hit in 2008. So I was like, oh shit, there's no jobs. So I was just kind of like, well, now what am I going to do, right? And like nobody in my class had a job. Like everybody was scrambling, the whole industry. Like I was from Toronto, right? So the whole industry in Toronto was shut down, like for animation and video games. And I was like, so what I basically did was I like started working. I just started like working as a for-hire artist on anybody who needed assets for a game. So I made a whole bunch of Xbox 360 live arcade games of various levels of quality. Most of them were pretty questionable. And then I used the art assets from those games to talk my way. Like I started working with the developer friend that I made from a university, and we started shipping like little iPod games. And this was iPod Touch games and stuff. And this was like at the very beginning of that market. So we like that's how I was making like my food money. So like we'd ship one like every 2 or 3 months, and like we'd make a little bit of extra scratch. I'm talking like $300 to $500 each a month, and then I'd use that for like money and stuff. And then yeah, I started like just having a lot of really small games businesses with different people that were like very experimental. And then I used my portfolio from all of those games and talked my way into getting a art job at a studio out of San Diego, and they were making Facebook games. So I was like their lead artist, and they were like super small. And they were trying to. It was funny because at the time they were describing themselves as the BioWare of Facebook games. So they were trying to make, which is kind of funny in retrospect. So like we were working on this game that was similar to Office Space. So like if you picture like everybody logs in their Facebook account, and then you each get assigned a cubicle, but you're all executives, and then every day you get these executive orders. And it had like a lot of story all around this, but you get these executive orders, and they were all ridiculous stuff like you get more hours of sunlight in your cubicle, but in return, like the lights have to be turned off in everybody's cubicle for 2 hours a day. And you just like all kinds of stupid stuff like that. You could like decorate your cubicle and send other people like cubicle gifts and stuff. So I worked on that for like 8 months, and then unfortunately, like that studio got shuttered. And at around the same time, there was another big client that I had for like another game. They were trying to make at the time there was a big engine called Torque, but it wasn't getting supported anymore. So they were trying to make the Torque killer, and then they were working on a demo for that engine. So I was like a big part of that. And unfortunately, like they folded, and the Facebook game studio folded within like a week of each other. And at the time, I was like, oh shit, now what am I gonna do, right? And it happened that I had gone to E3 that year, and I met people from Disney. So I emailed them, and I was kind of like, hey, like I need a job. What do I have to do to have a portfolio that's good enough? And they were like, yo, you're already good enough. They were like, do you want to work on Club Penguin? And I was like, yeah, man. So that's how I ended up out there.
That's awesome.
After that, I moved back to Toronto, and then like my career was kind of established at that point, and I got to work for a lot of companies. So,
I mean that sounds exhausting. That's a lot of work. I mean, that's from project to project. That's wow. Because normally, like you hear a lot of the people, they're like, "Hey, I was in the right place at the right time." Like it sounds like you put in the work. You were out there working anything that you could. That's kind of a cool story to get to where you are. Because right now, I mean, you're working at one of the biggest game developers that there is. You know, it's just BioWare, right? I mean, it's just BioWare. I mean, that's one of the biggest. Was BioWare ever like a dream for you? Like, this is one of the places I have to work?
They was always on my short list. Like I love RPGs, so I always wanted to work at an RPG studio. And like for a long time, like I worked on Club Penguin, which I'm really proud I worked on that. But like working in kids games was never like actually my dream. And then I came back to Toronto, and then I worked in casual games, worked in casino games, and then like literally like anything that they needed like an extra pair of hands on, and I could make some money, I was working on it. So it like literally like I was like, well, maybe I'll never make an RPG, you know? And I was like at peace with it. But then like one day I was in a position, like I came home. I remember I came home one day, and I asked like my husband, like, and at the time he was my fiance, I was like, if I just like applied all over in Canada, would you like come with me? And he was like, hell yeah. He was like, absolutely. And I was like, okay. And I sat down, and I made like a list of developers that I wanted to work at in Canada, and like BioWare was like near the top, like pretty much the top. And I was like, I remember like they had gameplay designer openings, and I like cold applied, and I literally was like, yeah, never hearing from them again.
Yeah.
And I was like in my studio, like I was working at a studio at the time, and I was like in charge of, I was basically in like, they called me a game, like my role title was game design architect. Well, but really I was kind of like I was like a mixed lead designer, producer, like whatever they needed that day kind of person, right? And then also leading a team. And like I was in my office, and I like get this call, and I look at my phone, and it literally just says BioWare, and I'm like, what? So in my office, in my old office, they had this like, you ever see like one of those offices where it's all glass on the sides? So it was all glass, and then like this little skinny hallway, and at the front there was like this like literal little glass box where reception was, and the receptionist was gone. So I pick it up, and I'm talking, and I walk right into that box. But the trouble is, I'm very excitable. So like the more this recruiter's telling me about how like they want to interview me and like get to know me, I'm getting more and more excited. So like by the end, I'm like totally losing it. Right. And like I didn't even notice like what was going on around me, and I like hung up, and I'll never forget, like I look up, and there's a glass, like the glass immediately in front of me, there's like my entire team, their faces pressed up against the glass.
Oh, no.
out there and they're like, so who was that?
No one. No.
But like they were telling me like at that time they would like they were in a position where they like weren't interested in making another game. So like I had already had the conversation with that studio because like they wanted me to work on a TV show with them like as a producer, and then I was kind of like I think I'm good. Like I think I need to keep making games and this isn't what I want to do with my career. So they knew I was applying around, so I just kind of like was straight up. I was like, yeah, that was BioWare. And I'm gonna interview with them and I think it might be really good. And they were like, oh, okay. And then they tried to come at me later and say that they wanted to make another game. And it's funny because I think they actually have reopened their games division. Anyway, I hope it works out for them, but I'm not there. So
Yeah. It's like, nah, we're not going to make games. Yeah, or now we are going to make games. Well, that's really cool. So, on top of working at BioWare, you also started YegFem Dev. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the work that you guys are doing with that?
Basically, it's a group for women and gender diverse individuals in the video games industry that are local. Like, and we mostly attract people who are local to Edmonton, and we had in-person meetups. And I'm looking at exploring options for digital meetups, and I'm probably gonna announce some plans for that soon because I'm in talks with like some different groups such as Edmonton Twitch to kind of like co-run some online meetups and stuff. So I think that might be really interesting. And there's some other stuff that we have planned, some digital talks that we're looking at in the future and stuff. But yeah, so that started about 2 years ago, and it really just started as like me wanting to get all the like get people together, because like there's a lot of groups in Edmonton that are just kind of like trying to make their first game. It's a pretty young industry here in Alberta. Just like that are just like under 5 people and just trying to make their first game and figure it out. And I know how that feels, and I think it's great to just bring together that community and like give people like even just emotional support. And emotional support can just be like people talking about what they're dealing with right now and on their project. And it could be anything from like, oh, I can't figure out how to do this thing in Unity, and then someone else pipes up and they're like, oh, actually, I've been through that and blah blah blah. And then the person goes home and they try it and they're like, oh shoot, like I figured this out now. Or it could be like, oh, I'm actually looking for a job, and then like there's another little studio. It's like, actually, I need an artist for XYZ, and the person like gets a job from it. So like there's a lot of benefits from like kind of building that kind of community. And I've made a lot of really important friendships, like people who really matter to me a lot through that group. So that's kind of our main focus. And we run it out of Analog Brewing Company. They have a microbrewery and like a little tasting room. And it's fantastic. Like Brian's been like a huge supporter to us, and as has BioWare. Yeah, it's just been a really nice experience. And we're just gonna keep growing that community. And
that's awesome, because like you said, it's got to be scary to like, hey, I'm gonna go into the game industry and I'm going to make a game, right? And if you're new at that, you don't know what you're doing, like having support from people that are like willing to give advice or to help or network with people, that's got to be huge, especially if you're a smart little group. Because like everything that game developers do looks like magic to me, and it looks almost impossible. Because like, you have giant teams like BioWare, and you got smaller teams that are putting out amazing content. So I think that's pretty awesome. So that's pretty cool that you guys are doing that. And I hope it continues to grow and you continue to get more and more support. That's pretty amazing. So
me too, and I'm sure we will. We'll keep it going, and like especially like I can't wait for us to start having in-person meetings again. Like I know we can't do it right now. But like the second we are, I'm gonna be like so pumped to see everybody again in person. I've been having like video chats with a lot of my regulars when I have the opportunity to, and it's been really good. Yeah, I miss everybody a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah, this quarantine is tough. So real quick, Melissa, so you worked on Anthem, worked on enemy design. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience working on Anthem? What you learned during that whole experience? What your favorite Javelin is? I'm guessing. I'm just gonna say you're a Storm main, because everyone's a Storm main, right?
No.
Yeah. Oh my god. So actually I'm a Storm main, which is really funny. I actually like Ranger too, but the reason why is because like the default testing character was the Ranger. So like you just get really good at him after a while, because like you're just using him all the time. So I'm really used to like his locomotion and how he feels. It just feels like like it fits me like a glove at this point.
Because he's the best.
Yeah. So yeah, I started working on Anthem pretty during production. So like I was not involved with pre-production on that project. And they just needed some more people to help finish up a whole bunch of creatures and help plan for a bunch of creatures. So I signed myself up and got suited up, rocketed off into space with that team. And it was a good experience. Like I made a lot of friends through that group, and like and they're people that I'm still working with now, which is great as well. Really, really talented guys. And yeah, we did it like what part of it do you want to know about specifically?
So what is the process of creating a creature and bringing it to life in Anthem? I mean, there's concept art, then you got to 3D model it. I mean, what part were you involved in, and what were some of the big takeaways that you're going to take into the Dragon Age team? I mean, in a roundabout way without talking about Dragon Age.
Yeah, the last part's really hard for me to answer without breaking NDA. So I'm probably going to keep that part super light, and I apologize in advance because I can't.
You can just go over it like in general, like how you go from concept art modeling and bringing it into engine, maybe just in general, so you don't even have to focus on a specific game.
I mean, speaking in general terms, like even before there's a model or like a character or anything, we kind of get together and like we have a pod team, a small team of like creature designers basically, or gameplay designers, and we kind of talk about like the greater concepts that we're trying to achieve within a creature palette. So that's like a creature palette would be like a handful of creatures that fit under like one group. So for example, like all the scars, they got discussed as one group, if that makes sense. And like they all fulfilled different roles, but we're meant to work together and like as a faction, as like a group. So like people get assigned different factions, and then we have like brainstorming meetings, and then we start building that out, and then often we use temporary assets to kind of build that stuff out. So this is before like we even get it to a 3D artist or anything. And it's at this point that we start, when we're building out concepts, we start showing it to our concept artists, and they start getting really excited, and they're like, oh dude, what about this? Or what if it looked like this and had this cool detail and like this color? And I'm like, and then like you're bouncing it back and forth and getting really excited. And then like once that gets signed off, and then on your gameplay concept gets signed off, that's when you it gets assigned to a 3D modeler, and then they start building it. And then you also have like your technical artists, so they're doing like the rigging. So like I don't know how much you guys know about 3D art, but basically like there's the model and then the texture, and then any maps on top that like kind of fake different real life effects. So you can have a lower poly model but get away with way more. Then and then shaders, and then you've got like the actual skeleton. So like bones inside of you and me, that exists in every single creature in Anthem. So like somebody builds that, and then there's animators that like use those rigs and build out animations. So like I'm showing animators once we get started getting those assets, like this is what I was building, and this is the kind of performance I was hoping for, and this is all the stuff that he does, this cool creature. And then they get excited, and then they're like, oh, can I like he feels like he should be super snappy and quick, and I'm gonna make him go like wham bam, and I'm like, go for it, man. And then they bring me back a bunch of assets, and then I'm implementing them over top of the old assets. And then during this time, we have a rigorous review process where we're kind of like constantly showing it to people, like design leadership or like project leadership, and they're sending notes, and then we're receiving those notes and kind of like making it work better, kind of with like the overarching vision of the game. So that's pretty much like what I do day to day, and that's pretty much how the process works. One of the big learnings that I took from Anthem was like learning how to work in the engine a lot nicer, because we do use a proprietary engine.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, I'm gonna stay really tight-lipped about what I learned, because
no trouble.
No problem.
I just don't want to. I don't want to risk breaking NDA. So.
Yep. So the flying scar, that guy's a real big jerk. Whose fault is that for making him as big of a jerk as he is? Right? Like, who can you point us to?
Okay.
Like, hey, this guy shreds a storm shield so fast.
Okay, so I actually think I know who it is, and he's not with BioWare anymore. And I'm
So, so what palette were you in? So, were you on a specific team for the scars, or were you over Dominion, or did you kind of get to play with all the different enemies in Anthem?
I got to jump around kind of all over the place. They were like, it was kind of a position where like they were trying to final the game, or like I went through finaling, but there was also the production cycle before then. So I was in like both of those on Anthem, and like during that time, like most of the creatures were decided on. So like it was just about like building them out and making sure that the design like worked. And and like was the best possible design for that creature. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like I was bouncing around all over the place as a result. So I got to work on a little bit of all most factions. I know it sounds very, very generic. I apologize, but
No,
like,
that's
it
fine.
actually
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite enemy from Anthem that's like, hey, this is the one that I really enjoyed working on because it looks cool?
It's a good question. I almost want to say, oh my god. Actually, you know what? The creature that I have the most memories of is actually the wolf, which is the funniest thing. Like the wolf, the frost wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's such like a minor, small time kind of guy, but like, and I just went through I went through a lot with that creature, and like a lot of the technical learnings that I have now actually came out of that creature. That in the badger.
The badger?
It's funny. I worked on so much since, but just like oh my god, the badger is like the I don't even remember what name he shipped with, but that guy who shocks people with the quills.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the Tesla.
First thing that I worked on. Wait, the Tesla? Oh, yeah. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
We used to call it the badger, and like I have like okay, so literally like that was the first creature that I worked on in Frostbite, and like I just have so many memories of like working with like the guy that I worked with on that. I'm still working with him today, and like we joke about that creature all the time. Like it's funny because like all the creatures that I have like the best memories of are all ones where we have like lots of like in jokes. I have lots of in jokes with specific people at the studio about. And it's funny that they're all wildlife adjacent. But yeah, there was oh my god.
I always call that the best sniper in the game because no matter what I do, that thing's.
There was one day where somebody in systems design did like a complete retool. Like this was like 6 months before ship. Somebody did a complete pass and retool on all the damages in the game, and then I didn't know about it. And like I've never like everyone was so mad about the kill you.
Why am I getting one shot by this badger?
Yeah.
I'd already long since moved on from that creature, so like I wasn't even thinking about it. And then like somebody in QA comes up and he's just like, Melissa.
This is way OP.
Melissa, you're the jerk that made the Tesla too strong.
Yeah, and like this is all your like you need to fix this, and I was like, oh god.
Like, well, you should have sent me a memo telling you were retooling damage type.
Yeah, and then it was like a one-click change and it was fixed, but like it caused so much drama. I think. Sorry to anybody that affected who may be seeing this stream, but I do think it's hilarious.
So you do find joy in our pain. Is that what you're telling? Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying.
But going back to the Woofin as like a character, like a creature that you worked on. I mean, that was one of the first creature that we saw from the 2017 E3 reveal. That's the first enemy in the game that we ever saw. So that's got to be kind of cool that you're like, hey, I worked on that thing. That's the first thing anyone saw in Anthem was something that you worked on. So that's pretty awesome.
You mentioned it. That is really cool. Like, and like they're in the game quite a bit as well. Like it's pretty. And they do look cool, like visually. So yeah.
Visually, they look cool. They are also one of the coolest sounding creatures because they have the howl, which is super cool. I don't know who worked on it. When we talked with Presley, we got to talk to her, and she did a lot of work with a lot of the creatures. I think she enjoyed the grab it the most. But that's pretty awesome. I mean, we've played a lot of hours fighting against these enemies, and like Devon said, the Tesla has got to be one of the biggest pains. It is such a good shot. It can hit you from anywhere. So
I'm sorry about that.
I always made it a point to go back and kill it. I was like, all right, you get a sniper, you're dead.
I don't think you're sorry about that. You're everything that I'm seeing on screen says that you're not sorry about that. And we lost her. Give her a second. Give her a second to compose herself. We lost her.
I love building very difficult encounters, so I am kind of known for that.
And that's good. We need more difficult encounters. Yeah. Well, speaking of difficult encounters, Melissa, you have 5 siblings, right?
Right.
So how many fights broke out in your home over who gets to play video games and who beat who in Smash Brothers? I mean, that's got to be
like constantly. Well, like okay, so when we were kids, like the Super Nintendo was the hot thing, right? And I remember I had an uncle who came like to visit us, and he was like, yeah, the Super Nintendo was like the greatest thing ever, and it was like brand new, and he like showed us Zelda. So like Zelda 3 was the first game I ever played, and like our family like fell in love immediately, and they like my dad surprised us with one shortly afterward. And how my mom dealt with a lot of the fights was that she put us all on shifts. So she was like, you can only play for an hour at a time, and she like forced us to cycle out every hour, which was good because it gave us time to do homework and stuff. But we would get into pretty passionate fights about like deleting save data, because there's like most games back then only had slots, and then there was like 6 of us, right? So it would just become like either like 2 of us would share a save slot, or it would be like, and then like swap off, and we would do that. I would do that often with like one of my brothers, my younger brother, on like video games. Like we did that even into the N64 era. So like my first time ever playing like a lot of the Final Fantasy games for PlayStation, and like Zelda 64, Majora's Mask, it was like me and my brother like taking an hour each playing, but then passing the controller back and forth, and then watching it together. And then like we would read from the guide. Like we would always buy the guide during that era, and then we would like read from the guide to each other and stuff. So like it was a really good like bonding experience.
That's similar to how Steven and I did it. He would
Lies.
just not let me play, and I would just have to read everything to him. And he would say, "No, this is how this game is done." And then he would hand me the controller that was unplugged. You know how you do to like toddlers. And he's like, "No, you're doing really good, Mike." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing really good at this."
We have way different memories, you and I. For
I mean,
some reason.
no wonder that's the way you play nowadays when we're playing in multiplayer. You're like, is this controller even plugged in right now? What's going on?
A negative. Leave this KDA alone. I mean, that's just... So Melissa, for you, getting like your own game save slot was like almost like getting your own apartment, right? You're like, finally, I'm free. I get to play the game the way I want to play it.
Oh, 100%. And like it's crazy because like I remember like I asked for a Game Boy when I was a kid, and like I received it, and like nobody else in my family cared about it. So it was like my thing. You know what I mean? Like when you have that many siblings, you share literally everything. And I would like go around the house and like squirrel away all the double A's and like drive my parents crazy. And I'd be like hiding out under a blanket in my bedroom, like playing Super Mario and like Kirby's Dream Land and stuff. And then eventually Pokemon, because I was like big into that. Yeah, I was like kind of like a handheld fanatic during that era, just because it was so it was something that I could have just for myself, essentially.
Did you have the magnifying glass attachment for the Game Boy that had the flip out lights and everything?
I did, and it was so shit. Like it was
but it was the best that we had.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm talking about? The one that like had the magnifying glass and the light.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Placed 2 buttons, but it like was really bad.
Oh yeah.
Because like, yeah, because you're going through like 2 contact layers, so like there's no way it's ever gonna be good. So, and then I had like a bunch of the other accessories. Like I remember like when I got the Game Boy Color, like I was obsessed with that too, and I had like the worm light and like a bunch of other stuff. And I had Game Shark for that one.
You have the printer?
I actually didn't have the printer. I kind of wish I did, because it looked really cool.
I was really excited about the camera for when they had, well, was it from there or the Nintendo 64? Because they were going to do, originally let you put your face in the game for Perfect Dark or GoldenEye, and that got canned. I was
and they had an artist game that was canceled in Japan as well for that era, where it was like you could put your face in it and then play games and like do like painting and stuff.
They're like, that's too real. No.
Yeah, it's too real with our flat texture for the face. But no, so the Game Boy printer, they had the Game Boy printer on the Game Boy Pocket, because you could play and you could print pictures of Link from Link's Awakening. So they did have it during that time. So it wasn't the best printer, but they did have that printer back then. So Melissa, you have played a ton of games in 2018. So what I like to do on the show, I like to do a lot of dumb games and dumb quizzes. So this is what I did. In 2018, you wrote a blog of like 70 games you completed that year.
Holy moly.
Right? Do you remember this blog?
Okay. Yeah, I do remember it. Okay, so just full disclosure, it's not games I completed, it's games I played. So some of them, like, and keep in mind, like my normal strategy is just to play for long enough to understand all the gameplay, and then I bounce off to the next one. So some of the games on that list I only play for like an hour. So just full disclosure. So I may not be able to answer all your questions about every game, but I'll try.
Oh, these are super specific, in-depth end game. No, these are pretty simple. This is just, hey, I'm going to read the description off the back of the box. I mean, I got these all from Steam or wherever you could find these games because some of them aren't on Steam. So I'm going to read the description of the game, and hopefully it's going to jog your memory, and you just have to tell me what game it was that you played. Because you played some of the weirdest sounding games I have ever read, right? Because you played some weird stuff, Melissa. Right. So some of these are going to be really easy. I'll blank out the name. I'll blank out anything that really gives it away. All right. So this is the first question. All right. So Blank is a roguelite, Metroidvania inspired action platformer. You'll explore a sprawling, ever-changing castle, assuming you're able to fight your way past its keeper in 2D Souls-like combat. No checkpoints. Kill, die, learn, repeat.
Is it Dead Cells?
That is Dead Cells.
Right on.
I need to have like a let's see, I need to have a sound on here when you get something right. Let me see. Here it is. Nope, here, I'll use this one. That's for when you get it right. And this is when you miss it. But I won't use that one because you're not gonna miss any of these. All right. Number 2. This one's weird. Okay. All heads up, this one's weird. So this one, lost in an alternate dimension, Blank must collect enough shares to get back home. Sounds easy, except the 7 sages went to rid gaming industry of CPUs, including Blank. Help defeat them and return her to her own world in this JRPG, or be stuck in the 80s forever.
Oh, that sounds so familiar. It's not Cthulhu Saves the World, is it?
No, it's not that. This has like one of the most Japanese names ever.
It's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't remember. Is it?
There's like 7 words in the title. There's a 3 in the title also.
Oh, is it? Okay. I'm just trying to remember.
There's
Is
a
it's not Breath of Death, is it?
No, so this is Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 3 5 generation.
Oh, what a name! Oh my goodness!
So, like, I remember why I played that game was because like I watch a lot of anime, and then people kept making jokes about the series, and then it was on sale for $3. So I was like, yeah, man, I'll check that out. And then I played it for like 2 hours, and I was like, I think I'm good.
Yep, I'm checking out of this one. All right, number 3. So Blank, this is an interesting sounding game. Blank is the #1 operating system for daily tasks such as skeleton smashing, loot organizing, trouble sorting through all your potions and swords. Don't worry, Blank can help you manage, and with an easy to use interface, you'll have time left over for a peaceful stroll through the underworld.
Okay. I know the game, and I'm trying to remember what it's called. Just give me 1 second, because it's like I know it's an Adult Swim game. It's Kingsway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kingsway. That is correct. Well done. I am impressed.
I got like every ending in that game. It was good. I liked it.
That is an interesting looking game. Like, because it all looks like it's on a DOS interface where you're actually playing a game inside of a computer. If I'm correct, right?
Yeah, like I don't want to spoil it, but that's basically what it is. It's like you're in like a 2D, like retro, early, like late 1980s style, like RPG game. And then like there's constantly a clock ticking down, and there's like a ton of stuff that happens, and a lot of it's like kind of randomized. So like there's like you can go in like a dungeon, for example, and find like a randomized sword and like some other stuff, and then you can spec into different classes and abilities, like typical to an RPG. And there is an overarching plot that's pretty light, but I don't want to spoil it. Like if you're gonna play it, there's a big surprise, I guess you could say. And then once you see the surprise, you're kind of like, oh, you start to piece together kind of what's really going on. It's one of those games, so.
Very cool. There's something I might have to check out because it's almost like you're like 2 layers deep into the video game inception there. All right. This one should be super easy, right? For anyone can get this one. I shouldn't say that. All right. Blank and his Blank companion, Blank, are looking for dinosaur eggs. Blank has stolen and placed in 7 castles. Many secret exits aid Blank in finding his way to Blank's castle.
Gotta be something with Yoshi.
Completing 7.
Did I play like finding the 7 eggs? Why am I blanking on this? I feel like I should know it. Is it a Mario game?
It is a Mario game. So that was finding the 7 castles.
Okay.
Let's see. Completing 74 areas and finding all 96 exits with multiple layers of 3D scrolling. That is Mario World.
Yeah. And it's funny because I just cleared that like 2 days ago.
And this is something you play this twice a year, once a year, at least
I
once
play
a time per year.
I end up playing it once a year, and I'm also extremely good at it, which is like I remember the first time I sat down with Colin, and I was like, "You need to try this game," like, and like I was just like whizzing through the worlds, like no problem, and he was like dying all the time. And it's funny because like normally he's like really good at games, but I happen to be really good at platformers, so.
So and I mean, this is like we can all agree like greatest game ever, right? Super Mario World. I
Oh,
mean, that's
absolutely.
easy.
That game is fantastic. Like, I love that game, and it still feels really good. Like, it feels really like responsive and snappy, and like there's a lot of really cool characters in it, and like it's weird. It's weirdly comforting. Like it's like having a cup of warm cocoa, and I think it's because I've just cleared it so many times and I have so many memories about it. So,
Are you worried that they're gonna remaster it or try to remake it? Or is that something like bring it on, try it, and then let's see how it goes?
yeah, I feel like if you're gonna do it, then give it a shot, right? It can't hurt. And I mean, like, I think if Nintendo was gonna remake something, then they're really gonna know what they're doing. Because I don't think Nintendo would just remake a game for no reason, right? I think they would feel like they can definitively like make the gameplay significantly better. And I don't think they'll do it otherwise. So
But what about all the childhoods that they would ruin, Melissa? Think of the childhood.
It's only your
that would
childhood,
be
Steven.
ruined.
Only
okay.
your
All right.
childhood.
Two more of these. Here's number 5. This sounds like this is a fun game. All right. Getting a girlfriend before national college entrance exam. I know it's crazy, but from today we will face everything together. And that's the description of the game.
it's like something. It's a Chinese like visual novel game, and it was called something
Yeah.
like there's a Chinese word for final exams in high school. 300 days. It's something like that. Like chain something.
I'm gonna go ahead and give this to you because that is super close. So I think it's
Yeah.
Gaio Kaio. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
speak Japanese, but it's
yeah.
Gaio Kaio Love 100 Days.
Like yeah, got like I that word basically means, from what I understand, like the final exams you take before college, and it tells you what kinds of colleges and universities you can get into.
Huh.
So
Very
the
good.
game was like kind of crazy actually, because it was one of those games where like for the first 100 days things are pretty chill, and then like you meet 2 girls, so and then like it's kind of like which one are you gonna end up getting with, and then like at the 100 day, and then like your parents are like being really strict with you, and then at the 100-day mark, like the difficulty ramps up like crazy, and if you haven't done exactly the right things all the way up to that day, something terrible basically happens to you. So in my playthrough, I became homeless after getting in a giant fight with
Oh,
my
no.
father over me go seeing a girl instead of studying. And then I was homeless for 3 days, and at the end of the 3rd day, a bum kicked me off my bench, and as I crossed the road, I was hit by a truck, and I was in a
That sounds oddly like specific. Like some developer like went through this and like I've just got to put this in the game. This is how my life went.
I hope not. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, that's
It
terrible.
does sound terrible.
Like so after that I was kind of like, yeah, I get what this game's about. I think I can move on with my life. Because like I remember like I read online about like the different paths and like what you have to do to get the good endings, because there's like a bunch of endings in that game. There's like 27 or something, but the translation wasn't very good. Like the translation was like kind of questionable. So I was kind of like, I can leave it.
Very cool. All right, so this is the last one. So this one's for all the marbles, right? Here we go. Question number 6. So Blank is a challenging gothic roguelike turn-based RPG about the psychological stress of adventuring, recruit, train, and lead a team of flawed heroes against unimaginable horrors, stress, famine, disease, and the ever-encroaching dark. Can you keep your heroes together when all hope is lost?
That sounds awesome. I want to play that. Okay.
You did play it.
Okay.
You gave
so
it a really high score,
I want
too.
to say XCOM, but I know it's not XCOM.
No, it's not XCOM.
What?
So this, let's see. I don't know how to give a clue without giving this one away. Other than say it's like it's super popular. It's a very well-reviewed game.
It's the first letter.
That would give it away.
What?
Was it like a big box AAA game, or was it an indie game?
It was an indie game that is like Jettison, the developer, Like it's huge now,
Oh,
and people are
is it
like
like?
basing games off of what they did.
Oh, okay.
Starts with the
yeah,
D.
starts with a D. I have no idea, which is really bad because like I feel like I should know what it is.
So this is Darkest Dungeon.
Oh yeah, that game is really good. I really like that game. It's fun. It's maybe I should revisit that actually sometime.
I think
It's
with
fun
the
going back
other
to
games on your backlog though, Melissa, I mean you got a lot of games that you have to get through.
I think it's
It is
interesting
true.
that you both have games you play once a year, and I'm like, I don't know. That's different. And for me, I don't know. I don't really go back to one game over and over again.
Yeah, like there's only a few games that I do that with, like, and it's mostly just games that I played for the first time when I was like super young, and I think it is just like the nostalgia value and kind of like how it makes you feel, like it reconnects you to kind of your youth and stuff. Because like I do think in general like video games today are like a lot better than they were back then, right?
Mm.
Like and sometimes I will revisit really old games and it really puts stuff into perspective, right? Like of like there's a guy I used to work with and his name, I'll say like his name is Bruce. So me and Bruce used to like hang out at his house and we play like really old video games, and he had like a huge stockpile of NES games. And we had this in joke where he would put a random one in and we'd play it for a while, and if it was bad he would just turn it off and then look at me and then just be like $50.
Oh.
There's no patching that bad. It came out bad and it stays bad. There's no patching that. There's no
basically,
updates.
well, yeah, it's like that Miyamoto quote where if like if like you can delay some, like if a game is bad then it's pretty much bad forever, right?
Yep.
And like it's worth it to take the time to make a game really good.
And I think revisiting certain games, like you said, Melissa, it is the nostalgia for me. But I think the story in Final Fantasy VI and the character interactions, like playing through it, you realize that okay, there's not a ton of dialogue between characters. A lot of that's just kind of in my head what I built it up to be. But
Yeah.
those small story beats with how short they were, they still left a huge impact. And I think that's something that we're always trying to chase, right? I want to feel like how I felt when I played Final Fantasy VI for the first time, or I played Link's Awakening for the first time. And it's
Yeah.
tough to try and chase that. And I think that's what a lot of, developers want to build. They want people to have those emotions again, because those are emotions they had and they're strong emotions. I mean, you played Halo. Like, how many times do you ever revisit Halo Combat Evolved,
Wow.
Devon?
It's been a while for me actually. So like I played it a ton when I was in high school. And then I think the last time I played it was I bought the Halo one, like the remaster, the one where you could like press a button and see the old and new old and new graphics. So I played through that and I had a blast doing that, but I haven't really touched Halo since. But it's crazy because like Halo is still like the definitive like shooter game to play if you're gonna start like making a shooter, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's so much right. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah, the thing that always frustrated me, like after Halo 2, like Bungie for me created the perfect like online lobbies and everything else, and it really frustrated me when all these other games came out and it's like, I don't know how you don't see what they've made. Why are you not just, they're like trying to reinvent something that was already perfected in kind of their matchmaking and their social scheme, and still to this day the lobbies and those kind of things are crazy problems, and it drives me. I don't understand why they don't just copy what was the best, use the same features, adopt that into their game,
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess one challenge the games industry does have is that, like, in terms of like UI UX, right? They tend to be like a few years behind like other fields, such as like the tech industry, the greater tech industry, and on top of that, like the games industry does need to follow like different rules, and like there's different problems they're trying to solve in the tech industry. And there's actually like almost no good documentation or like no good books or like resources to really learn game UX. It was funny because I was actually talking to like our a UX director at our studio about this like the other day, and she was like, "Yeah, there's like one book that's good," and I was like, "Geez," but it's like it's kind of the same for gameplay, right? Like there's I can't even think of a single book that I would recommend for gameplay design if you want to get started. I would just say like just start building stuff, just start trying. Like most of the early stuff that you build is going to be like super derivative of whatever it is that you like, right?
Yep.
So like just find something you're passionate about and start dissecting it and figure out why you like it. And you know, especially if you can find ways to like improve or like iterate on what you already like, then that's like you're already like a running start, right?
Mhm.
And that's why you replay those games, Devon. So you go
I
back
know.
and know like what you like.
It's funny because I can now say, well, the reason why I never finished that game is because I was just trying to learn about it. And then I move on.
There you go.
Good.
And I think like tools nowadays, like if people want to start getting into games, like Unity is free, the Unreal Engine is free, and they've got so many tutorials that are just like, hey, like we built this for you to go ahead and start. Like you can load up a tutorial in Unreal and it's like, here's a person, you can jump around, you can move, here's the things that you can adjust. So I mean, it's got to be easier than it ever has been to start designing your own games.
In a lot of ways it is. And there's also like a lot of mod tools. Like I often recommend to people, like if they're interested in making like getting into games or like understanding it more, like pick a game that you really like that has mod tools and then just start like modifying what exists. Because like for example, like, you know, even Skyrim, which is like it's been out forever at this point, right? But they have like the modding tools are available if you want to like mess around in like an RPG, like an action RPG. It's a little bit dated now though. Or like even like The Sims accepts mods if you want to get into some like light scripting and kind of like you know, see what it's like, just see what it's like, right? Yeah. But it's true, like Unity and Unreal get dramatically easier every year. Making a game is still like very difficult, very challenging. There's still like, especially if you want to build something that's unique, building something that's truly unique tends to be really, really difficult. Because there's no code that exists for your unique thing.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah.
Which I think is why like a lot of people's first games tend to be like, oh, you know, like I downloaded this tutorial on how to make a platformer in Unity, so I made a platformer in Unity in like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And like, but still, mad respect to you if you can pull that off, right?
Yeah.
You still made something.
It's always cool when you make something and you can play it and all right, well now look at it. What do you want to improve and keep building upon that.
Yeah.
Because you have to do it. No one else is going to do it for you, right?
It's true. It is true. And besides that, like there's a lot, like even if you just make a game by yourself, right? If it's good and you put it out there, people are gonna notice. Like I know a lot of people actually who like ship their own first game and put it on like itch.io or something, and then use that as leverage to get their first studio job. It's a really good way to go about it, especially if you want to be like a designer, right? And it's pretty common for like if a studio does expose their mod tools, it's pretty common for them to recruit from the modding community as well. So like I know a
Unless
lot
you're
of people,
Blizzard, then you never talk about people that made, you know, games in the
I
Warcraft.
guess
We're not talking about those people.
actually, because
Yeah.
yeah, that's a whole different subject. But yeah,
So Melissa, so what's next for you? When do we get to see, you know, game lead game designer Melissa at BioWare working on Dragon Age 6? I mean, is that
I'm
the
not
next step
leading
for
it.
you?
Well, okay, so maybe that'll happen in the future. I don't know when that would happen. Like we're working on a really cool thing right now, and I'm important part of the creature team, and like I feel like we have a really great gameplay team, and like we're making a ton of progress, and I'm really excited for what we're working on, and I think people are gonna lose their minds. Like that's pretty much what it's gonna come down to. It's that good. I couldn't hype it up enough. In a very
How hard
vague
is it to work from home?
way.
Like
What's that?
was it difficult to transition to working from home like right now with the situation that you're in? I know you've been doing this for over a month now, you know, working from home. Is it a lot different, you know, working from home, trying to communicate with the other people on your team and
I've done it a lot before, and like the transition for me personally wasn't that bad. It was like I was very shocked. You know what I mean? When I was like, oh snap, this is like in my city and it's real now. Like that was hard
Yeah.
for the first week. And like worrying about like all the people I care about, obviously, and all that stuff, right? 'Cause,
Yeah.
like I have a lot of family back home in Ontario, and a lot of them are in essential jobs. Like, you know, like they're in the fire, like they're firefighters, or they're like like working with animals every day and they have to go see the animals or like stuff like that, right? So I worry about them. But like the working from home thing is like not a big deal to me at all. And like I felt like the transition was pretty clean. And EA has done an incredible job of supporting us. And
Cool.
studio leadership at BioWare as well. So it's pretty much been a breeze. Like they pretty much were like they let us settle in for a week, and at the end of that week we were all pretty much ready to go, and like we haven't really lost any I feel like we haven't lost anything really. Like our pace has been the same and the reviews have been the same. So it's been really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've been really lucky.
Excellent.
Very cool. So, Melissa, thank you so much for hanging out with us, spending the time with us to chat about video games. I think it's always fun to chat about video games and this crazy hobby that we do and the crazy job that you have in making video games. I always tell people that, hey, anything that you need to have done in video games, it takes 2 developers in 2 days. That's it. You can get anything done in that amount of time, right?
I wish to make game button, and like I just happen
Exactly.
to have access to it, and that's how I got this sweet job. I just press it every day, and then they're like,
Exactly.
wow, so you're amazing. Give her a raise and a promotion.
It's like, I just got to keep hitting the single button over and over again. So making games is hard. And for everyone that does that, for people like us that consume that, like, thank you for the time. It's because it has to be hard sometimes. I can imagine the amount of time, the sweat and tears and blood that is put into making a game as large as Anthem was. And, you know, for the team that's working on Dragon Age and the other projects that BioWare is working on, that's tough. So thank you very much for helping us have a hobby that we can enjoy. We love talking about video games, and we wouldn't have that if it weren't for developers like you. So thank you for all your hard work. That's awesome.
And I really appreciate your guys' support, and like I think you guys have a great community. Like I'm always thankful for anybody who loves what we're doing. Thank you so much.
No, and it's always a highlight when we get to talk to team members, because we know that there are actual people behind these games that are making them. So we appreciate you. Melissa, would you like to tell the people that are listening where they can find you if you want people to find you on Twitter? Or if you just want to be like, nope, I don't want to talk to anybody.
No, I'm open. I'm always open to talking to people. My Twitter is Deedlite, so DeedLite. And I'm pretty active on there. I mostly like retweet goofy video game things or talk about what games I'm playing, or like tweet out pictures of Cupcake, because she's always like bugging me these days. But you know, I'm always like open to whoever wants to have a chat, especially about video games. So, or like whatever project you happen to be working on. I'm always excited to hear about other people's games. So.
Because there are a lot of good games out there, so there's not enough time to play all the games. Except for Melissa, you managed to play like 80 in like 1 year, so I don't know how you did that. But so thank you everyone for hanging out with us on episode 121 of the Freelancer Codex podcast, and we will see you next time. Hold on, let's see. I lost. Where is it? Here it is. There's the button.
Thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter at Freelancer Codex, on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or through email at freelancercodex@gmail.com. Join the Discord through the link provided at freelancercodex.com. Our show will always be free, but if you'd like to send some support, you may do so at patreon.com/freelancercodex. Our individual Twitter handles are at Stephen Lamson, at mlamson25, at Neverfear, and at JD the Joke Dealer. Freelancers, it's time to get to work.